The Great Hall of Horizon Prime Station stretched wider than any building Kevin Price had ever seen on Earth. He stood in line with 19 other human cadets, all of them wearing the dark blue uniforms of the Galactic Coalition Academy. His heart beat fast inside his chest, but he kept his face calm. He did not want anyone to see how nervous he was. Around him stood cadets from dozens of alien species. Some were tall and covered in silver scales. Others were short, with 4 arms and skin the color of midnight. A few floated in special chambers filled with colored gas. Kevin had studied all of these species in his training on Earth, but seeing them in person was something else entirely. Earth had only joined the Coalition 2 years ago. Humans were still new to the galaxy, still proving themselves. This was the first class of human cadets ever accepted to the Academy, and Kevin felt the weight of that fact pressing down on his shoulders. At the front of the hall stood the scanner. It was an ancient machine, built by a species called the Velthari over 12,000 years ago. The Velthari had disappeared into isolation long before humans learned to make fire, but their technology remained. The scanner measured the potential of every cadet who wanted to serve in the Coalition. If it approved you, you could begin your training. If it rejected you, your dream ended right there. Commander Zorath stood beside the scanner. He was a Kelvani, one of the scaled species that held many leadership positions in the Coalition. His silver scales shifted color slightly as he watched the proceedings with old, tired eyes. He had overseen this ceremony for 20 years. It was always the same. The scanner hummed, flashed green, and approved nearly everyone. Rejections were rare. The screening process before cadets even reached this point was very thorough. The line moved forward slowly. Kevin watched as alien after alien stepped onto the small platform before the scanner. The machine would glow, make a soft sound, and flash green. The cadet would step down and join the approved group on the other side of the hall. Simple, quick, routine. A Morthon cadet stepped up. These beings were known throughout the galaxy as brilliant engineers. They had 6 eyes and hands that could manipulate objects smaller than a grain of sand. The scanner flashed green. The Morthon moved on. Next came an Aelith. The Aelith were diplomats and scholars, with compound eyes that could see in spectrums humans could not imagine. Green light. Approved. The human cadets moved closer to the front of the line. Kevin could see his friend Amy Walsh 3 spots ahead of him. She looked back and gave him a small smile. They had trained together on Earth, had traveled to the station together, had dreamed of this moment together. Soon they would both be approved, and their real training would begin. Amy stepped onto the platform. The scanner hummed. Green light. She stepped down, her smile wider now, and joined the approved cadets. One by one, the humans before Kevin passed their scans. Green light after green light. The gallery of observers, filled with diplomats and officials from across the Coalition, watched with mild interest. Humans were still a curiosity, but so far they seemed ordinary enough. Then it was Kevin's turn. He stepped onto the platform. The metal was cold under his boots. He stood straight, his hands at his sides, his eyes forward. He tried to slow his breathing. This would take only a few seconds. The scanner would approve him just like it had approved everyone else. There was nothing special about Kevin Price. He was just a young man from Ohio who wanted to see the stars. The scanner began its work. Kevin felt a strange warmth pass through his body, like sunlight moving through clouds. He had been told the scan was painless, and it was. He waited for the green light. It did not come. Instead, the scanner made a sound that no one in the hall had ever heard before. It was deep and resonant, like a bell ringing in a cathedral made of stone. The lights on the ancient machine began to flicker, shifting between colors that Kevin did not have names for. Purple that was also gold, red that was somehow blue, colors that hurt to look at and yet drew the eye anyway. Commander Zorath's scales turned from silver to gray. This was a sign of concern among the Kelvani. He stepped forward, his old eyes suddenly sharp and alert. The scanner did not flash green. It did not flash red. It simply continued to make that deep, strange sound, its lights dancing in patterns that seemed almost alive. The entire hall fell silent. Thousands of beings from dozens of species stood frozen, watching the impossible happen. The scanner had never done this before. Not once in 12,000 years of recorded history. Kevin stood perfectly still on the platform. He did not know what to do. His training had not prepared him for this. Nothing could have prepared him for this. What is happening? The voice came from Delegate Maris of the Aelith. She was a senior diplomat, over 200 years old, and her compound eyes reflected the strange lights like 1,000 tiny mirrors. Commander Zorath did not answer. He moved to the scanner's control panel and examined the readings. His scales shifted through several colors Kevin did not recognize. None of them looked good. The machine is not malfunctioning, Zorath said slowly. All systems are functioning within normal parameters. It is simply processing. Processing what? Delegate Maris asked. I do not know. Minutes passed. They felt like hours. Kevin's legs began to ache from standing so still, but he did not dare move. The entire galaxy seemed to be holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen. Finally, Commander Zorath made a decision. He pressed a control, and the scanner powered down. The strange lights faded. The deep sound stopped. The hall was left in ringing silence. Remove the cadet from the platform, Zorath ordered. His voice was calm, but his scales betrayed his worry. He will be held for examination. No one is to speak of what happened here until we understand it. 2 Kelvani guards approached Kevin. They were not rough with him, but their grips on his arms were firm. They led him down from the platform and toward a side door. Kevin looked back once. He saw Amy's face in the crowd, her expression a mixture of fear and confusion. He saw the other human cadets, standing together, looking lost. He saw the scanner, now dark and silent, keeping its secrets. He did not know what he had done wrong. He did not know what was inside him that had made the ancient machine stop. But as the guards led him away, Kevin Price understood one thing clearly. His life would never be the same again. The examination room was small and white, and very clean. Kevin sat on a metal chair in the center of the room, surrounded by machines that blinked and hummed as they studied him. He had been here for 6 hours. No one had told him anything. No one had explained what was happening or what would happen next. Through the small window in the door, he could see guards standing outside. They were not there to hurt him. He knew. They were there to make sure he did not leave, and perhaps to make sure no one else came in. Far above him, in the Grand Council chamber of Horizon Prime, the leaders of the Galactic Coalition argued about what to do with one young human from Ohio. Admiral Vex of the Celix fleet stood at the center of the chamber. The Celix were a warrior species, respected and feared throughout the galaxy. Vex was old even by Celix standards, his gray skin marked with the scars of 100 battles. The human must be quarantined, Vex declared. His voice was like gravel scraping against stone. We do not know what he is. We do not know what he can do. Until we understand, he is a threat. A threat? Dr. Hannah Cole stepped forward. She was the chief scientist of the human delegation, a woman with gray hair and sharp eyes who had spent her life studying alien technology. He is a 22-year-old cadet who grew up fixing cars with his father. He has never hurt anyone in his life. How is he a threat? The scanner stopped, Vex replied. In 12,000 years, the scanner has never stopped. Not for anyone. Not for any species. This human triggered something that the machine's creators thought important enough to build into their design. We must assume the worst until we know otherwise. Delegate Maris raised one of her 4 hands for attention. Perhaps we are looking at this incorrectly. The scanner did not reject the human. It did not declare him unfit for service. It simply paused. Perhaps it detected something positive, something valuable, or something dangerous, Vex said. The Morthon High Scholar, a being named Torith who was considered one of the greatest minds in the Coalition, spoke from his hovering chair. The simplest explanation is that the scanner malfunctioned. Technology, even Velthari technology, can fail. We should examine the machine before we make any decisions about the human. The scanner has been examined, Commander Zorath said. He had been standing quietly at the edge of the chamber. But now he moved forward. Our senior technician, Lorith, has studied it for the past 4 hours. Her findings are unexpected. He activated a display that showed complex data streams that most beings in the room could not understand. The scanner is not malfunctioning. Every system is working perfectly, but it has activated a protocol that has never been used before. A deeper level of scanning that none of us knew existed. What is this protocol measuring? Dr. Cole asked. We do not know. The scanner's creators never documented it. They built it into the machine 12,000 years ago and never explained its purpose. We only know that this human triggered it, and only this human. The chamber fell into troubled silence. This was worse than a malfunction. A malfunction could be fixed. An unknown protocol from a vanished species was a mystery that might never be solved. Then came the announcement that changed everything. A communications officer rushed into the chamber and handed a message to Commander Zorath. The Kelvani read it, and his scales shifted to a color that none of the other species had ever seen before. The Velthari have responded to our inquiry, Zorath said. His voice was very quiet now. They are sending an observer. The reaction was immediate. Gasps and whispers spread through the chamber like waves through water. The Velthari had not sent an observer to Coalition space in over 300 years. They were the oldest species anyone knew of, the builders of technologies that no other civilization could understand, and they almost never involved themselves in the affairs of younger races. Why? Delegate Maris asked. Why would they come now? The message does not say. It says only that the observer will arrive within 1 standard day and will examine the human personally. Admiral Vex's expression darkened. This proves the human is dangerous. The Velthari would not come for something ordinary. Or it proves he is important, Dr. Cole countered. Important enough that even the Velthari want to see him. Down in his examination room, Kevin knew nothing of these debates. He only knew that he was alone and afraid and very far from home. He thought about his parents, who were probably watching the news feeds back on Earth, wondering what had happened to their son. He thought about Amy and the other cadets, who had worked so hard to get here and were now caught up in something none of them understood. He did not feel special. He did not feel dangerous. He felt like a young man who had made a terrible mistake, though he could not imagine what that mistake was. The door to his room opened, and Dr. Cole entered. She looked tired, but she managed a small smile for him. How are you holding up? She asked. I don't know what's happening, Kevin said. No one will tell me anything. Dr. Cole pulled up a chair and sat across from him. The scanner detected something in you that it has never detected before. The Coalition is trying to figure out what that means. Some of them are afraid, some are curious, and the Velthari themselves are coming to look at you. The Velthari? Kevin had studied them in his training. Ancient, mysterious, almost godlike in their technology. Why would they care about me? That is the question everyone is asking. Dr. Cole leaned forward. Kevin, I need you to understand something. You have done nothing wrong. Whatever is happening, it is not your fault, but the next few days are going to be very difficult. People are going to treat you like you are something other than human. You need to remember who you are. Can you do that? Kevin thought about his father's garage, about the smell of engine oil and the sound of tools against metal. He thought about his mother's voice reading him stories when he was young. He thought about the first time he looked up at the night sky and dreamed of reaching the stars. I can try, he said. Dr. Cole nodded. That is all anyone can ask. She stood to leave, but paused at the door. The Velthari observer will be here tomorrow. Whatever happens, Kevin, remember that you are not alone. There are people fighting for you. People who believe that whatever the scanner found, it does not define who you are. She left, and Kevin was alone again. But her words stayed with him. A small flame of hope in the darkness of uncertainty. He did not know what the Velthari would find when they examined him. He did not know what the future held. But he knew that he was human, and that would have to be enough. Outside the station, the stars burned cold and bright, indifferent to the small dramas playing out among the beings who sailed between them. But somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, a Velthari ship moved toward Horizon Prime, carrying an observer who had not visited the younger races in 3 centuries. The galaxy was about to discover what made one ordinary human so extraordinary. The Velthari ship arrived without warning. One moment the space near Horizon Prime was empty. The next moment, a vessel hung there, shimmering like heat waves rising from summer pavement. It was not large, but something about its shape made it difficult to look at directly. The eyes wanted to slide away from it, as if the ship existed in a way that normal matter did not. Kevin watched its arrival through the window of his examination room. He had not slept, he had not eaten much, but he had thought a great deal about who he was and what he wanted, and he had decided that whatever happened next, he would face it honestly. The Velthari observer came aboard the station alone. Kevin did not see this arrival, but he heard about it later from Dr. Cole. The observer moved through the corridors of Horizon Prime, and every being it passed fell silent. Some bowed, others simply stared. The Velthari were legends, and here was one walking among them. The observer was called simply the Witness. This was not its name, Dr. Cole explained, but rather its function. The Velthari who visited the younger races were always called witnesses. They came to see, to understand, and to remember. What they did with their memories, no one knew. The witness was difficult to describe. It was tall, taller than any Kelvani, and its form seemed to shift slightly whenever Kevin tried to focus on the details. It wore no clothes that he could see, but its body was covered in patterns that moved and changed like living things. Its face had features that suggested eyes and a mouth, but they were not quite right. Not quite what any species Kevin knew would consider normal. It entered his examination room without asking permission. The guards outside did not try to stop it. No one stopped a Velthari. Kevin stood up from his chair. His legs were stiff, and his heart was beating very fast. But he stood straight and met the witness's gaze as best he could. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The witness simply looked at Kevin, studying him with those strange, almost eyes. Then it began to circle him slowly, pausing occasionally to examine him from different angles. Kevin felt like a specimen under a microscope, but he did not look away. He did not try to hide. This examination lasted for 3 hours. 3 hours of silence, of being watched, of waiting for a judgment that never seemed to come. Kevin's legs ached. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, but he did not sit down. He did not complain. He simply stood and let the ancient being look at whatever it wanted to see. Finally, the witness spoke. Its voice was strange, like many voices speaking at once in perfect harmony. "You are afraid." "Yes," Kevin admitted, "but you do not hide your fear. You do not pretend to be strong when you are not. My mother always told me that pretending to be brave is not the same as being brave. Real courage means doing what you have to do even when you are scared." The witness was silent for a moment. Then it made a sound that might have been laughter, soft and musical. "Your mother is wise. She is a school teacher," Kevin said, "in a small town. She teaches children to read. And your father? He fixes cars, machines. He taught me that every problem has a solution if you look at it long enough." The witness circled him one more time, then stopped directly in front of him. "I have seen what the scanner saw. I understand now why it stopped." Kevin's heart seemed to pause in his chest. What did it see? The scanner was built to measure potential. The capacity of a being to grow, to change, to become something more than what it is. For 12,000 years, it has measured countless beings against parameters we established long ago. Strength, intelligence, leadership, loyalty, creativity. It approves those who meet our threshold for service in the coalition. "I am not strong," Kevin said. "I am not particularly smart. I am just ordinary, by the standards of your own species, perhaps." But the scanner does not compare individuals to their own kind. It compares them to the galaxy, to all species, to all possibilities. The witness leaned closer, and Kevin felt a warmth radiating from its shifting form. And you, Kevin Price of Earth, contain within you a potential that the scanner could not measure. Not because it is too small, because it is too vast. Kevin did not understand. Vast? How can I have vast potential? I grew up in Ohio. I fixed engines and played baseball and dreamed of space. There is nothing special about me. You believe that because you compare yourself to other humans. But humans are new to the galaxy. You do not yet know what you are capable of becoming. The scanner tried to measure your potential, but it encountered something it was not designed to quantify, a capacity for growth that exceeds any projection we created 12,000 years ago. The door to the examination room opened, and the leaders of the coalition entered: Commander Zorath, Admiral Vex, Delegate Maris, the Morthon High Scholar Toreth, Dr. Cole, and others. They had been watching through cameras. They had heard everything. Admiral Vex stepped forward, his scarred face twisted with suspicion. You are saying this human is more dangerous than we thought. I am saying nothing of danger, the witness replied. Potential is not the same as threat. A seed has potential. It may grow into a tree that provides shelter and food, or it may grow into a weed that chokes other plants. The seed itself is neutral. What matters is what it becomes. And what will this human become? Commander Zorath asked. The witness turned to face the assembled leaders. That is not for me to say. It is not even for him to know yet. But I will tell you this. My people built the scanner to find exceptional beings who could help shape the future of the galaxy. In 12,000 years, it has found many such beings. But it has never stopped before. It has never encountered a potential so large that it could not be measured. What are you telling us? Delegate Maris asked quietly. I am telling you that the galaxy is watching. Not just because a human triggered an ancient protocol, but because what this human becomes will matter. Not just to humanity, to everyone. Kevin felt the weight of those words pressing down on him. He did not want to be important. He did not want to carry the hopes and fears of an entire galaxy. He just wanted to serve, to help, to do his part. But perhaps, he realized, that was exactly why the scanner had stopped. Not because he wanted to be special, but because he simply wanted to do good. What happens now? Kevin asked. The witness considered him for a long moment. Now the galaxy watches, and you show them what human potential truly means. Then it turned and left the room, gliding through the assembled leaders like mist through trees. No one tried to stop it. No one spoke until it was gone. Kevin stood alone in the center of the room, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the coalition, and wondered how a young man from Ohio was supposed to show the galaxy anything at all. But somewhere deep inside him, in a place he did not yet fully understand, something was waking up. Something that had always been there, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The future was uncertain. But Kevin Price was ready to face it, whatever it might bring. The trial began 3 days after the witness departed. Kevin stood in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall, a vast chamber that could hold representatives from every species in the coalition. Today it was full. Thousands of beings from dozens of worlds had come to witness the judgment of one human cadet. This was not a criminal trial. Kevin had broken no laws. But the coalition had rules for dealing with unknown threats, and there were many who believed that Kevin's unmeasurable potential made him exactly that. A threat. A danger. Something that needed to be contained or removed before it could cause harm. Admiral Vex led the prosecution. He stood at a podium carved from asteroid stone, his gray skin dark with anger, his scars catching the light. The witness itself confirmed that this human contains something unprecedented, Vex declared, something that the builders of the scanner thought important enough to flag with a special protocol. We cannot ignore this warning. Throughout history, unknown powers have caused destruction and death. We must act now, while we still can. Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the assembly. Kevin saw species he did not recognize nodding their heads or equivalents. Fear was a powerful force, and Admiral Vex knew how to use it. Delegate Maris spoke for the defense. Her compound eyes reflected the light of 100 crystal lamps as she addressed the assembly. The witness also said that potential is not the same as threat. We cannot condemn this young man for what he might become. We can only judge him by who he is now, and who he is now is a cadet who came here to serve the coalition. He has harmed no one. He has threatened no one. His only crime is triggering a protocol that none of us understand. But that is precisely the point, Vex countered. We do not understand. And when we do not understand, we must be cautious. The survival of the coalition depends on our ability to recognize and neutralize threats before they become catastrophes. The debate continued for hours. Kevin stood silently through all of it, listening as aliens argued about his future. Some wanted him imprisoned. Some wanted him exiled back to Earth, forbidden from ever leaving his home planet again. A few suggested more permanent solutions, though they phrased them carefully. Throughout the assembly, Kevin noticed something else. In the gallery reserved for observers, his fellow human cadets sat together in a tight group. Amy Walsh was at their center, and she had been busy during the days Kevin spent waiting for this trial. She had talked to cadets from other species, had formed friendships, had built a network of support that now stretched across the chamber. Here and there, among the alien delegates, Kevin saw beings who looked at him not with fear but with curiosity, even sympathy. Amy had done that. She had reminded them that Kevin was not a threat or a mystery. He was a person. Finally, it was Kevin's turn to speak. He walked to the center podium, aware of thousands of eyes watching him. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice was steady when he began. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, he said. My father is a mechanic. My mother is a schoolteacher. I have one younger sister who is studying to be a nurse. When I was 7 years old, I saw a shooting star and asked my mother what it was. She told me it was a piece of rock from space, burning up in our atmosphere. I asked her if people could ever go to space, and she said that they already had, and that maybe someday, I could too. He paused, looking out at the assembly. That night, I decided I wanted to see the stars up close. Not because I wanted power, or fame, or to be special. I just wanted to see what was out there. I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. Admiral Vex shifted impatiently, but Kevin continued. When Earth joined the coalition, it was the greatest day of my life. Not because it meant we were important, but because it meant we were welcome. After centuries of looking up at the sky and wondering if we were alone, we finally had our answer. We were not alone, and there was a place for us among the stars. I came to this academy to serve, to learn, to help. I did not come to be a threat or a mystery. I do not know what the scanner saw in me. I do not know what this potential is that everyone keeps talking about. But I know what I choose to do with whatever I have. He looked directly at Admiral Vex. You are afraid of what I might become. I understand that. I am afraid too. But fear is not a reason to destroy something. Fear is a reason to be careful, to be watchful, to be ready. I am asking you to watch me. Judge me by my actions, not by what some ancient machine could not understand. And if your actions prove dangerous, Vex asked, then stop me. But give me the chance to prove otherwise first. That is all I am asking. A chance. The chamber fell silent. Kevin returned to his place in the center of the floor and waited. The vote took place immediately. Each species cast their decision through electronic devices embedded in their seats. The results were tallied by the assembly's central computer, a process that took only seconds but felt like an eternity. Commander Zorath read the results. By a margin of 63% to 37%. The assembly has decided to allow the human Kevin Price to continue his training at the Coalition Academy. He will be monitored and evaluated throughout his time here. Any sign of dangerous behavior will result in immediate review, but he is not to be imprisoned or exiled. Relief washed through Kevin like warm water. He nearly collapsed, but he forced himself to remain standing. He was not out of danger yet. He was simply being given a chance. As the assembly began to disperse, the witness appeared beside him. Kevin had not seen it enter the chamber. But there it was. Its shifting form somehow comforting now rather than frightening. "You spoke well," the witness said. "I spoke honestly," Kevin replied. "Yes, that is why it worked." The younger races often forget that truth is the most powerful tool any being possesses. You reminded them. Kevin looked at the ancient being. "Will you stay? To watch?" "No, my part in this is done, but others will watch, and in time, they will understand what I already know." "What is that?" The witness was silent for a moment. Then it spoke, and its many voices seemed to carry a weight that filled the entire chamber. "That the scanner did not stop because you are dangerous. It stopped because you are a beginning. The first of many. Your species is young, Kevin Price, but you carry within you the potential to change everything. Not through power or conquest, but through something the older races have forgotten." "What have they forgotten?" The witness smiled, "Or something close to it. Hope." Then it faded away, like morning mist dissolving in sunlight, leaving Kevin alone in the great chamber with the weight of a galaxy's expectations on his shoulders. But he was no longer afraid. He knew who he was, and he knew what he had to do. He had to show them what humanity could become. 1 year passed. Kevin Price stood in the graduation hall of the Coalition Academy, wearing the silver uniform of a completed cadet. Around him stood his classmates, beings from 30 different species who had trained together, struggled together, and grown together over 12 difficult months. He had not broken any records. His scores in combat training were average. His performance in tactical simulations was acceptable but not exceptional. His grades in xenobiology, galactic history, and interstellar navigation were good, but not the best in his class. By every measurable standard, Kevin Price was an ordinary graduate, and yet everything had changed. It had started small. A conversation in the cafeteria between Kevin and a Morthan cadet named Silith. They had been arguing about the best way to calibrate a sensor array. The argument had grown heated, drawing the attention of other cadets. An Aelith named Verath had joined in, then a Kelvani named Dorax, then others. What should have been a simple disagreement became something else. Kevin had listened to each perspective, had asked questions, had found the common ground between positions that seemed completely opposed. By the end of the conversation, 5 cadets from 5 different species had developed a new calibration method that combined the strengths of all their approaches. It was better than anything any of them could have created alone. That pattern repeated throughout the year. Kevin had no special ability, no hidden power, no mysterious talent. He simply had a way of bringing beings together. He asked questions that made others think differently. He listened in a way that made others feel heard. He admitted his own weaknesses freely, which somehow made others comfortable admitting theirs. The Aelith and Morthon cadets had been rivals for centuries. Their species had a long history of conflict and mistrust. But Kevin became friends with cadets from both groups, and through him, they began to talk to each other. Old grudges started to fade. New understanding started to grow. A crisis came 6 months into the training year. A simulation exercise went wrong, stranding a mixed group of cadets in a damaged section of the station. They had limited air, limited power, and no way to call for help. The group included species that had never worked together before, species with different needs and different ways of thinking. Kevin was among them. He did not take command. He did not give orders. But he moved through the group, talking to each cadet individually, learning what skills they had and what they needed. He translated between species who could not understand each other's communication styles. He found ways to combine Morthon engineering knowledge with Aelith analytical abilities with Kelvani physical strength. The group survived. They repaired the damage, restored communications, and walked out together. Afterward, every cadet in that group listed Kevin as the reason they had made it, but Kevin refused to take credit. "We did it together," he said. "I just helped people see how they could work with each other." Word spread. Other species began requesting human cadets for their training groups. Earth's enrollment at the academy tripled. The fear that had surrounded Kevin's examination slowly transformed into something else. Curiosity, interest, hope. Now, at graduation, Kevin stood with his classmates and listened as Commander Zorath spoke to the assembled crowd. 1 year ago, Zorath said, this academy experienced something unprecedented. Our ancient scanner encountered something it could not measure. Many of us were afraid. Many of us wanted to reject what we did not understand, but we chose instead to watch, to wait, to see what would happen. His scales shifted to a warm gold color that Kevin had learned to recognize as respect. We have seen, and we understand now what the scanner's creators meant when they built that hidden protocol. They were not looking for threats. They were looking for catalysts, beings who could change the course of history not through power, but through connection. Zorath turned to face Kevin directly. Kevin, Price of Earth, you have completed your training with satisfactory marks in all categories. By standard measures, you are an average graduate, but you have done something that no average graduate has ever done before. You have changed us, all of us. He held out a silver insignia, the mark of a coalition officer. I am honored to award you this commission personally. Kevin stepped forward and accepted the insignia. His hands were steady, but his heart was full. He thought of his parents watching this ceremony through a live feed on Earth. He thought of his sister, who had sent him a message that morning telling him how proud she was. He thought of all the cadets who had become his friends, who had trusted him, who had grown alongside him. He turned to face the assembly. Thousands of beings from dozens of species watched him. A year ago, they had been afraid of what he might become. Now, they were waiting to see what he would do next. The witness told me that the galaxy would watch to see what I became, Kevin said. I think I finally understand what that meant. This was never about me. It was never about what I could do alone. It was about what we could do together. He looked out at the crowd, at the mixture of species that a year ago would not have sat so close to each other, would not have talked so easily, would not have trusted so freely. Humans are new to the galaxy. We do not have ancient technology or vast empires or thousands of years of history. But we have something else. We have the ability to see what connects us rather than what divides us. We have the stubborn belief that different does not mean enemy, that strange does not mean dangerous, that together is stronger than alone. He held up his insignia, the silver catching the light of 100 crystal lamps. I am one human. I cannot change the galaxy by myself, but I can work with others who share the same dream. And together, we can build something that none of us could build alone. That is what human potential means. Not what we can do, but what we can help others do. The chamber erupted in applause. Not just from the human contingent, but from species all across the coalition. Aelith and Morthon, Kelvani and Silex, even Admiral Vex, standing in the back of the chamber, nodded his scarred head in grudging respect. Later, after the ceremony, Kevin walked through the halls of Horizon Prime one last time. He passed the Great Hall, where the scanner still stood, ancient and patient, waiting for the next class of cadets. He paused before it, remembering the day it had stopped on him. The day his ordinary life had changed forever. A technician named Lorith looked up from her work. The Velthari sent instructions, she said. They asked us to add a new protocol to the scanner. For humans. What kind of protocol? Lorith's scales shifted to a color Kevin had learned meant amusement. When a human steps forward, the scanner will no longer try to measure their full potential. It will simply acknowledge them and let them pass. Kevin smiled. Because it cannot measure us? Because some things, Lorith said, are not meant to be measured. They are meant to be lived. Kevin nodded and walked on, through the corridors of the station, past cadets and officers and diplomats from 100 worlds. He did not know where his career would take him. He did not know what challenges lay ahead. But he knew that he would face them the same way he had faced everything since that day in the scanning hall. Honestly, openly, together with others. The galaxy was vast and old and full of mysteries. But it was also full of beings who wanted to connect, to understand, to grow. Kevin Price had shown them that one ordinary human could help make that happen. And now, with the stars stretching out before him and the future wide open, he was ready to show them what came next. Behind him, the scanner hummed quietly in its ancient hall, keeping its secrets, waiting for the next generation of cadets to step forward and begin their own journeys. Some of them would be human, and the galaxy would welcome them, because they had learned, at last, that humanity's greatest power was not something that could be measured. It was something that could only be shared.